Namaskar. Recently, I have received two valuable publications related to Sanskrit studies. Both of them are commemoration volumes. The first one is entitled Rājendrayaśobhūṣaṇaṁ. It forms studies in Sanskrit poetics and aesthetics brought out in the memory of Professor Rajendra Nanavati. The volume is published in 2023, that is this year, by Professor Rajendra Nanavati Commemoration Committee, Vadodara. The volume is priced 1,500 rupees and has been published by Asha Nanavati, the worthy daughter of Professor Rajendra Nanavati. Here is the address of the publisher and her contacts. And under the editorial board, with me as general editor and Dr. Gautam Patel, Dr. Manibhai Prajapati, Professor Lata Nanavati, Manibhai Prajapati, Dr. Yogini Vyas, and Dr. Shweta Prajapati in the editorial board. The volume is a befitting tribute to the memory of Professor Rajendra Nanavati, who was one of the most versatile scholars of Sanskrit in our times, and his areas of study included so many fields under Indological studies. He worked on Itihasa and Puranas, on the Akhyanas, on various aspects of Sanskrit literature, on Kalidasa and other poets. But his major area of study has been Sanskrit poetics. And there he emerges as an original thinker, as a Bhashyakara of the whole tradition of Kavya Shastra or Sanskrit poetics. The 700 pages of this volume, having 10 sections, bring out different aspects of the contribution of not only Professor Rajendra Nanavati to Sanskrit poetics, but there are articles, valuable papers on various aspects of Sanskrit poetics, and they bring out original contributions to, to the study of Sanskrit poetics and aesthetics. Rajendra Nanavati has been one of the most outstanding scholars of our times. And there are 74 articles in the 10 sections of this volume, and the first section is devoted to the reminiscences about Professor Nanavati by his students, by his admirers, his colleagues, and friends. It comprises very loving memories of Rajan Nanavati, because Rajan Nanavati has not only been an outstanding scholar, he was a noble soul indeed. He was a great person. As a man, he was loved, and he stood with us as a trusted friend to the whole Sanskrit community. So, the first section, of course, is in itself brings out the whole repository of memories of a person who was loved by his colleagues and students, and he always stood with them. The second section comprises the bibliography of the writings of Professor Rajendra Nanavati in 15 pages. The third section is devoted to the general study of Sanskrit poetics. The fourth section discusses theories of Sanskrit poetics. The fifth section is devoted to Natya Shastra or dramaturgy. And the sixth section comprises articles on the contribution of different states to the study of Sanskrit poetics. The seventh section is devoted to modern Sanskrit poetics. Eighth section comprises studies on Sanskrit aesthetics. The ninth section has a bibliography of Sanskrit poetics prepared by Manibhai Prajapati, and the 10th section is devoted to the contributors of this volume. All the articles of this volume form valuable contributions to the study of Sanskrit poetics. And without going any further details into them, I will read out the introduction which has been written by me as the general editor of this volume. The present volume is a small token of gratitude and affection for late Professor Rajendra Nanavati. Literary criticism has been Professor Nanavati's forte. To make it a befitting tribute to his lovable memory, the board of editors rightly decided to keep the focus of this volume on comparative studies on Alankar Shastra or literary theory in Sanskrit. The first section is comprised of memoirs and reminiscences by friends, students, and admirers of Rajan Bhai. They establish him as a man par excellence, gifted with rare qualities, a reliable and trustworthy friend, as well as a great teacher. This section also captures some rare and touching moments in association with Nanavati. Above all, it establishes Rajen Nanavati as a towering scholar amongst us. He covers diverse areas of ethnological studies. Going through the list of his publications, one would be amazed by the vastness of his scholarship and erudition. The papers collected in the remaining sections bring out various facets of literary theory in Sanskrit and discover some unknown aspects of the theory as well. Sitanath Acharya, a versatile scholar and a very sensitive Sanskrit poet of our times, discusses Kuntaka's method of structural analysis. He aptly brings out the distinctions between the usages of terms kavya and sahitya in the theory. There is a semantic shift with the arrival of Kuntaka and Rajshekhara on the scene, and the word Sahitya, with its background of grammatical propositions, assumes added significance. Acharya establishes Kuntaka's contribution with reference to the hermeneutics of the term Sahitya. Kuntaka adds to our understanding of poetic language by the way of defining its structural aspects as well as its extraordinary quality, and Acharya adds to our understanding of Kuntaka by the way of defining his fivefold categorizations under Sahitya, that is to say, the interrelationship between the word and the meaning. Ram Kumar Sharma, an eminent scholar of Sahitya Shastra, redefines the triple semantic processes and also unearths the percolations of Shaiva philosophy in the concept of Vyanjana. Rabindra Kumar Panda, in his thought provoking paper entitled Sanskrit Poetics as a Human Science, provides a novel interpretation of Kavya Shastra as a discipline concerned with human world. Kavya presents the study of man, including his inner and outer world. Kavya Shastra, or literary theory, as a discipline which provides canons for the scientific study of Kavya, is naturally concerned with humanity. A number of papers in this volume update the history of Sanskrit poetics, extending its frontier up to 21st century. They also present the development of ideas in diverse areas of literary theory in Sanskrit. Dr. Kalanath Shastri, in his paper on Rasa Bhasa and Bhava Bhasa, revisits two vital concepts of Alankar Shastra and their viability today. Vijay Bhai Pandya establishes the extraordinary acumen of Rudrata as a rasa theorist. This volume includes some of the most salient papers of Rajendra Nanavati himself. These papers reveal his insight and originality. Nanavati perceives a remarkable closeness between Lollata and Kuntaka. He also raises the most fundamental question in the theory of rasa: what does Anukarya mean to Lollata? All the stalwarts like P.V. Kane have simply wronged Lolita by interpreting Anukarya as a historical person, a man coming from the empirical world and not the Kavya Jagat, the world of poetry. Rajendra points out that this erroneous notion has distorted the whole understanding of the tradition of Alankar Shastra. Lolita was naturally Lolita was actually suggesting the basic difference of intensified emotion, upachita sthai bhava, from worldly emotions. With his holistic view, Nanavati sees the connectivity of thought processes between the stalwarts beginning from Bharat Muni to Bhama, Dandin, Lolata, and Kuntaka, and brings out a parallel view of aesthetic experience based on objectivity. Nanavati viewed the whole spectrum of Sanskrit poetics with a radical approach, reconstructing the age-old view of supremacy of Rasadhvani system. He rightly challenges singularities of prevalent perspectives, and his papers collected here envisage a pluralistic view of the whole tradition. The papers by Bhagirathi Nanda, Satyavrat Verma, and K.H. Trivedi introduce less known but very important authors of Alankar Shastra. They are Dharmasurin, Mandana, and Ramchandra Gunachandra. Whereas the papers by eminent authors like Hansaben Hindocha, Umashankar Sharma Rishi, and Kalanath Shastri present the development of the whole tradition of literary theory in a particular region. Papers by Balkrishna Sharma and Jayashree Chattopadhyaya interpret the theory of rasa as envisaged by Pandit Raj Jagannatha. Parul K. Makad provides a glimpse of rasa theory as discussed by Jain Acharyas. It has now become necessary to view the theories of Sanskrit poetics in a global perspective. C. Rajendran, who has made extensive studies in the trends of Western theories of literary criticism and postmodern thought, rightly points out the radical shift in the scenario. In fact, literary criticism has undergone a sea change in our age. Structuralism and post structuralism have developed fresh tools for analyzing a literary discourse. Rajendran also examines the viability of Dhvani theory with reference to postmodern systems of deconstruction and the theory of reader's response. He brilliantly deconstructs some myths about Dhvani theory. His suggestion about Anandavardhana as an anticipator of Roland Barthes will lead us to revisit Alankar Shastra. The paper by Rajendran also raises voices of caution in drawing lines of similarities without considering alien systems in their uniqueness. I may add here that Indian theorists invariably link Indian theorists invariably link creative literature, kavya, with purushartha or values of life and its harmony, whereas European thought rests on dichotomy and man's spirit to challenge nature. This volume also comprises some rare papers by great authors of past century who have established landmarks in the area. V. Raghavan is one of them. With his comprehensive knowledge and an integrated approach, he presents the theories of Alankara and Ochitya and other theories in a wider perspective. There are a number of papers devoted to the search for new canons in Sanskrit poetics with a view to extend its horizons and to accommodate global thoughts in its periphery. Professor Sheldon Pollock, Professor Sheldon Pollock, one of the most outstanding scholars of Sanskrit in our times, has especially sent his revised has especially sent the revised draft of his paper, What, what was Bhattanayaka saying? The hermeneutical transformation of Indian aesthetics. This is the title for this volume. This paper elaborates upon the turning point in the theory of Alankar Shastra, which occurs with the disappearance of Bhattanayaka on the scene. Pollock finds Bhattanayaka refreshingly original. Pollock finds Bhattanayaka refreshingly original. He convincingly argues for Bhattanayaka's perceptive treatment of rasa, which in fact has revolutionized the whole system. He convincingly argues for Bhattanayaka's perceptive treatment of rasa, which in fact had revolutionized the whole system. He also suggests that Hridaya Darpana of Bhattanayaka, I quote, long thought to be a commentary on Natyashastra, was more likely an independent treatise critiquing Anandavardhana rather than a commentary on the Natyashastra of Bharata. His contention that thereafter no one appears to have had direct. He also suggests that Hridaya Darpana of Bhattanayaka, I quote, long thought to be a commentary on Natyashastra, was more likely an independent treatise critiquing Anandavardhana rather than a commentary on the Natyashastra of Bharata. Quote unquote. His, his contention, however, that thereafter no one appears to have had direct access to the book of Bhattanayaka needs further testimony for its confirmation. As Pollock does not refer to Bhava Prakasha of Sharda Tanaya, a text from 13th century AD. Sharda Tanaya, in fact, has given a very extensive treatment to aesthetic process, borrowing terms and even perhaps the original karikas of Hridaya Darpana. Pollock makes an in-depth study of the fourth book of Dhananjaya's Dashrupaka and Dhanika's very insightful gloss on it, pointing out how both these two authors are deeply indebted to Bhattanayaka for their elucidation of rasa theory. No doubt, Bhattanayaka is one of the most inventive thinkers in literary theory. He borrowed the conceptual framework of bhavana from Mimamsa philosophy. A lot of confusion, however, has been created with regard to the understanding of the term bhavana. Bhattanayaka reworked the whole idea of bhavana to make it integral to his theory of aesthetic process. Incidentally, both Rajendra Nanavati and Sheldon Pollock agree with Kuntaka and Bhattanayaka in granting Abhidha a function far more comprehensive than its usual sense of direct denotation. To Bhattanayaka and to Kuntaka also, Abhidha remains continuously essential aesthetic process. It is not just a coincidence that Pollock in this paper cites Nanavati also and gives him due credit for some of his postulations. Pollock also questions the treatment of bhavkatva and bhavana as synonymous, drawing lines of distinction between the two. Bhavkatva is anya bhavana, he says, another order of bhavana, and perhaps at the same time a unique type, different from any other sort of productive capacity associated with language. Bhavkatva is a reproductive capacity, he says, enabling us to relieve the emotions appropriately in ourselves. Quote unquote from Pollock. The papers by Srimati Sindhu S. Dange, Avdesh Kumar Singh, Vanmali Biswal, and some others in the last section also evolve tools to unearth the comprehensive view of Eastern and Western aesthetics. Rājendrayaśobhūṣaṇaṁ will hopefully go a long way with those who cherish the memories of Rajendra Bhai and a re- will also serve as a record of trends of studies in literary theory of Sanskrit. In the end, I would like to read an excerpt from Sitanshu Yashash Chandra, an eminent laureate of our times and a close friend of Rajendra Nanavati. To become a kav- to become a kavyagya as well as a shastragya is never an easy challenge for a young scholar. To be a kavi at the same time triples the test. Young Rajendra Nanavati made this challenge with an innate ease and won adoration from us, his juniors at St. Xavier's College, Bombay. From these deep triple roots grew the majestic tree of his later mature work in Sanskrit, Prakrit, and Gujarati, renowned nationally and internationally. This includes his insightful studies in Indian poetics and philosophy, his resonant poems, major texts edited insightfully and meticulously by him, and the lucid, lovely Gujarati translation of the Maharashtri Prakrit poem Kaha Sat Sahi. His Tejomay Akshara Deha will illuminate pathways of scholars, connoisseurs, and creative ones for a long time to come. This was by Shitanshu Yashash Chandra. The second volume, the second publication, is titled Ujjavalaśāstravaibhavaṁ. It is a commemoration volume in the memory of Professor Ujjwala Jha. It has been edited by Arun Ranjan Mishra, who is professor at Shanti Niketan, and Anagha Joshi. Professor Arun Ranjan Mishra, who has been a student of Professor Ujjwala Jha, has done hard labor to pay a befitting tribute to his worthy teacher. Professor Ujjwala Jha was a former professor and director of the Center of Advanced Study in Sanskrit in the University of Pune, and she worked on the third school of Purva Mimamsa, Murareh Tritiya Pantha, as it is said, and her contribution in the field of Purva Mimamsa, Nyaya Vaisheshika, is very well known. She definitely is one of the most outstanding scholars of Indian philosophy, especially the Purva Mimamsa system. The volume has been published by Shivalik Prakashan, New Delhi, this year, that is 2023. It is priced rupees 2,995. There are 54 papers devoted to various topics related to Sanskrit studies, particularly studies in philosophy. And there are papers by very eminent scholars. The first paper is a write up by Arun Ranjan Mishra himself on the contribution of late Professor Ujjwala Jha to Indology. Then Johannes Bronkhorst, a well known scholar of Sanskrit, has contributed a paper on Mahabhashya and its history. Then my own paper is here, Unveiling of Consciousness, Kavya as a Vehicle of Purushartha, where I have pleaded the case of Kavya as a vehicle of for Purusharthas. And I have argued that Kavya as a spiritual pursuit can become as a spiritual pursuit and would lead invariably to the emancipation of human soul as per our Shastras. There is a paper by Toshihiro Waha on verbal understanding that is Shabda Bodha in Navya Nyaya, Gangesha's analysis of sentence meaning. Professor V.N. Jha, who was who has been known as one of the towering scholars of Nyaya philosophy, has written on Purvamimamsa, the concept of dharma. Then Kaju Sato, his paper is there, an introduction to the idea of perception on the contribution of Shunyata and Pragya Paramita in Mahayana Buddhism. Katsunori Hirano has given his paper on Vachyavachak Bhava and Samavaya. Then Prafulla Kumar Mishra, his paper is there here on Vedic images of Savitri. Ashok Bohra is a well-known philosopher. His paper is here on dialogue and dialectics in Indian philosophy. And Professor C. Rajendran has contributed his paper on metrical passages in Harsha Charita, a study in the narrative devices of Ban Bhatta. Then Swaraj in Indian philosophy. Swaraj in philosophy. This is the paper by Nirmalya Narayan Chakrabarti. Vijaya Goswami has written a paper on the Mahabharata. Why should we read it? And Kanshi Ram has contributed a paper on the critical appraisal of Vachaspati's view on the objectivity of Brahman in Brahma, Brahma Veer Bhava. Then there are other papers on Vedic literature, Atharvaveda, and Bhakti Yoga, on Shabdavodha and sentential meaning, and on the study of myths and integral humanism, Kashmir Shaivism, and there are papers on some modern writings like Karuna Kampa Shatakam, and there are papers on Bhartihari's philosophy of grammar by eminent scholars like Mithilesh Chaturvedi. There is a paper by Harshadev Madhav on Shakta Tantra and Chandra Vidya. There are papers on Jaina philosophy by scholars like Dr. Dharmachandra Jain, and there are papers on the poets of Rajasthan by Dr. Saroj Kaushal and other authors. And the papers, 54 papers in this volume, cover the vast spectrum of Indological studies. And there are 32 papers in English, 9 papers in Hindi, and remaining 13 papers are in Sanskrit. The editors of this valuable volume have done commendable work by bringing out this volume in more than 500 pages. Thank you very much.